my internet connection went out right after my live stream, so I wasn't able to save it. This is just the take 2. I went a little longer on the hip hinge video because I wanted to touch on back positioning and bracing, which is really, really important to being successful in any kind of lifting, not just kettlebells. One person actually sent me videos of her squatting for me to look at, which I really appreciated. I'm not kidding, you guys can do that as long as it's not like, you know, a 30-minute long video. And I was able to give her some feedback that improved her squat immediately. Her husband took the video and he had a question, or actually a misunderstanding about low back position. So I want to touch on that really quickly before we go into the hip hinge, because if you don't have this part down, you're never gonna get the squat or the hip hinge well. You'll either not be nearly as strong as you could be, or you'll eventually hurt yourself, and probably be both, to be honest. Okay, so just to run through some quick stuff. You have your spine, yes. Your spine has natural curves. You have the base of your skull, and then your thoracic spine curves out, right? Kind of like rounds out. And then your lumbar spine, your lower back curves in, and then your sacrum and your tailbone curve back out. So your spine is like all the way down there, right? This is your sacrum, and down here is your tailbone. Nature has designed us this way so that we have impact absorption, the forces of gravity bearing down on us, stuff like that. So the thing about having what nature intended for us is that that's not how nature works. We're always going to deviate from what's perfect or textbook as far as positioning of our body. So for example, in my case, I have a very deep arch in my low back. I always have ever since I was a little girl. In fact, when I was a little girl, I had to hug my knees into my chest and hold it there for like 5 minutes at a time to help alleviate some of that tension in my low back. That being said, I really don't have low back pain, especially when I move a lot. It's very rare that I ever have any kind of lower back pain at all. But you can see, and I do have a big ass, and I'm not just like standing like this to make my ass look bigger. That's not what I'm going for. And anyway, that's not a good look. You can see how, so if this was my neutral position, and how you can check for neutrals, you have your hip bones and your pubic bone. If you set your hands onto the top or the face of your pelvis, your hands would be flat, right? So my normal posture is a little tilted forward, as many people are. And so you can see that my thumbs are now forward of my pinky. So that's an anterior tilt of my pelvis, and I'm slightly even sway backed. And what that means is my lower back is really tight. So my abdominals are weak relatively, right? And they pull my abdominals, or excuse me, my back into a deeper arch, right? This actually means that rounding type movements feel really good to me, like any kind of lower back flexion, like child's pose or something, feels really nice on my back. What that also means is that my hip flexors are super tight. So psoas connects all the way up into your spine. So when it's really tight, it'll pull you forward like this, right? Or pull me forward. And so the other way that I can get out of this position is strengthen my abdominals, yes, especially lower abdominals, but also strengthen my glutes. So if I squeeze my glutes, it will pull my pelvis into a more neutral position. And if I combine that with engaging my abdominals, I now have, first of all, a much more attractive abdomen, but I took a lot of that pressure off of my low back. And by engaging my glutes, I'm automatically stretching my hip flexors, right? So I don't really believe in passive stretching, not for me, and I don't really recommend it to people. If you love it and jerk off to it at night, that's cool. I don't need to hear about it. There's always going to be a difference of opinion. The most important thing for you as someone learning about this stuff is you have to just try different things and see what really helps you feel better long term. You might feel better immediately after doing something, but if later it comes right back, it's not really a solution. So just some food for thought, right? Think for yourselves. But anyway, so now that you're in this position, right, you can see how this would be a much more favorable way for me to load my spine. If I'm doing a back squat and I'm in my pregnant lady position and I put a heavy barbell on my back, you could see how that would really increase that tension in my lower back. And actually when my back hurts when I'm lifting a lot, it's because my form is sloppy. So my job, what I do for myself and my clients before I add load, is I prepare my body for that load. And like I said, for me that means a lot of glute activation type stuff. I know that's kind of a controversial topic, but it's what I believe in. Activating my glutes to help like elongate my hip flexors, and activating my abdominals so that I can take some of that pressure off my back. And by allowing my back to loosen, I'm actually allowing it to expand better or to brace. So we'll get into bracing now. So you have your six-pack muscle right here. Take your thumbs and push your thumbs into either side of your six-pack muscle, like really hard. And then I want you to use your abdominals to push your thumbs out. And in kettlebells, we actually do that with like a hissing sound or like a tss. So if you do like a hiss, tss, you feel that expansion, how you pushed out there from the side. Tss, hard, all the way around. Now, place one hand on the small of your back and just one finger on the side of your six-pack muscle. Same thing. Hopefully you felt some pressure in your lower back, some expansion there. So, but now what I want you to do is open your mouth, take an inhale into the back of your throat, and feel the air go all the way down into your sacrum. And push out that thumb. Okay, so now you have 360 degrees of pressure, which is what we want with really any loaded movement. In powerlifting, when they wear a belt, that's what they're trying to do. The feedback from the belt allows your body to produce more force than if nothing is there. It's kind of like pushing against air versus pushing against a wall. So what you're trying to do, remember, is you're trying to create a pillar to set weight on so that you can resist the forces trying to push you one way or another, right? So if you can envision, right, you'd rather be a full unopened can of Coke than a dented can of Coke, right? Because this is where you're going to lose pressure, lose tension, and it's all about tension. So one thing you can even do in your warm-up is just think about and you can do that on the floor, and that's even better because then you get, again, that tactile feedback, just like the belt on the floor. When I do that, just knees bent or whatever, I'll put something like a sock under the small of my back so that I can feel, so I have something, some idea for me to lengthen into. And I want you to make sure that you're not doing this, right? It's not this, it's expanding outward. And you might actually feel or find that that makes your back feel a lot better too. In powerlifting, we tend to inhale through the mouth. In kettlebells, we breathe through the nose, or we inhale through the nose. That doesn't really matter since I do both. I'm kind of in the habit of breathing in my mouth, but it's especially that you want to get into the habit of on exertion, okay? So that's it for bracing and breathing. Hinge is coming up.